You hear that? You hear that? That's special. There's a lot of lions, tigers, and bears, but there ain't but one Razorback.
McFadden, say goodbye. Darren McFadden, 80 yards, touchdown.
Fly ball, deep left field. Out of here. Madden for maybe the win. Oh, the follow is good. Arkansas in overtime. I think he just made SportsCenter again. Arkansas is in hog heaven. They won the first ever national championship.
All I want you to do tonight is play your best. Don't worry about making a mistake. You can make a mistake, that's fine, as long as you're going 100 miles an hour.
Transfer portal is in full swing. Welcome into episode 55 of the Pig Weekly Podcast, your weekly source for all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Episode 55 is brought to you by Homefield, home premium vintage collegiate apparel. Perfect time to go check them out today for all your Christmas and holiday needs. You can use promo code Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. So go get your favorite loved one a new favorite Razorback shirt, jacket, pullover, hat. Go check it out. They got a lot of fantastic things ranging from different logos, different eras, all that cool stuff. So go check them out today. And we'll just jump right in. Portal season is in full swing, and it just opened up 2 days ago. I believe on Monday, the first day of portal season, there was over 700 players enter the portal on day one. So a lot's going on this year, and I think it's even crazier than last year. We just hit on it before we started up the show here, how it's kind of intensified since last season. And so we'll start out with Arkansas here. So far, up-to-date list for Arkansas players in the portal. You have a handful on defense and a couple on offense. So we'll just run through a quick list here of this is the most noted list I know of. You've got defensive back Jalen Lewis, wide receiver Sam Mbake, linebackers Chris Paul and Jordan Crook, as well as linebacker Manny Powell, defensive lineman Tarin Carter, offensive tackle Devin Manuel, and running back AJ Green. No big surprises there. Maybe a little bit of AJ Green. I kind of thought he might come back and kind of try to boost his stock next year, but from just based off his pure performance this year, I'm also not surprised him wanting to kind of go get another shot somewhere else. Anybody's name on this list kind of surprise you off of guys leaving Arkansas?
No, not really. Outside of the linebackers, we talked about it a little bit last week. With the news of Chris Paul and Jordan Crook both kind of going out, that was expected after their announcements and everything. But it is still a little potentially surprising. I felt like our linebackers played pretty well this year. They had plenty of opportunities to shine. It's not like they were hurting for playing time. I realistically think it's just, they want to change the scenery, maybe go somewhere that's maybe a bit more competitive than we were. Granted, I think we'll be more competitive next year. I just don't know to how much, to what degree that we improve. There's got to be some improvement. And if there's not, I think that's a real bad sign, and some more changes have to be made. But I do think there's going to be improvements. I thought the defense improved greatly this past season, and these linebackers were part of that reason. So I expected some of them to stick around, maybe more so. And defensive lineman Tarin Carter was a little bit of a surprise. Got a decent amount of playing time. I'm not sure if he's coming back or transferring, because there's a lot of rumors going around that Landon Jackson might be coming back, which is a big surprise. That's not official yet, so don't quote us here just yet on that. But there is a lot of rumors flying around that he is potentially wanting to come back. I don't know all the reasoning behind that, but outside of some of the defensive players, I think the rest of this list, a couple of these guys haven't gotten a lot of playing time, like Jalen Lewis, for example, and then AJ Green. I understand him kind of wanting to get a change of scenery as well, go somewhere where maybe he fits the system a little bit better. I think you saw Debinion and Isaiah Augusta, they hit the hole really hard, whereas Green kind of dances a little bit back there, and he has to have a little bit more space to get up to speed and get going. Once he gets up to speed, he flies. But I think they wanted a little bit more physical back in the backfield most of the year, and I don't expect that to change next year. And so I would expect AJ Green to not maybe get as many snaps as the other two. So I understand that one completely.
Yeah. When you're talking about AJ Green, you kind of look at it too, depending on announcements and any further announcements, you're looking at a pretty decent crowded running back room next year as well, because you've got, as of now, we can assume Rocket's coming back. recovering from that torn labrum surgery. You've got Rashad Dominion probably going to come back from that torn meniscus and going to be back. Then, like you said, we've got Isaiah Gustav, and then you can't forget about the freshman coming in. Braylon Russell from Benton is going to be huge. He's going to a bigger type back, more than what we've had. And so he's probably looking at the running back room here and being like, there's not a lot of playing time up for grabs. And if this year's been any kind of example, I might need to take my chances leaving and going somewhere else, like you say, getting that fresh scenery, kind of maybe restarting his career somewhere else with his 1 year of eligibility left.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better.
And so portal commits, so far Arkansas has one player committed, and that was the offensive lineman Keyshawn Blackstock. We've talked about a couple of times here that he committed back a few weeks ago before the season was over. You know, he had that special ability to do that due to the way Michigan State's coaching situation ended out. They gave them the option to enter the portal early, and he entered the portal, and I guess Pittman worked his magic and told him, hey, you know, you've got a shot to come here and be a contributor right away. And from what we saw this year with the offensive line, that's easy to go out and recruit some of these top offensive linemen in the portal and be like, hey, look, we were bad last year. You know, we need somebody like you to come in and help us kind of get a solid, experienced line that can give whoever's in the backfield a chance to throw the ball and make some plays.
Yeah, no doubt. I was excited to see that pick up. Hopefully that one sticks. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the commitment process works. If once they are verbally committed or whatever, if they have the option to back out of that if a different team comes along or whatever the case may be. So I'm hoping that one sticks. There's several other offensive linemen that they've contacted already that are in the portal. There's honestly more names out there than we can really go through at this point that have quoted interest in Arkansas between, you know, receivers, quarterbacks, linemen, defensive players. It's crazy right now, honestly. And I almost feel for the coaches in a sense with how difficult this has got to be, and how fast you have to move. It's like an ever changing, you know, kind of field of environments there. But all things said, I think this was a big pickup to be able to get him early. And I think that could help us maybe get some other offensive linemen, you know, showing, okay, look, we've already got this pretty big name guy coming in. We could use you to join him. You get, you know, that kind of thing. So good things come in pairs a lot of the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's another couple of guys that signed for that offensive line just due to Keyshawn Blackstock already committing to us.
Yeah, that's true. And then on the positive note, Arkansas players have officially kind of made official announcements that they're returning. You know, you got both your tight ends coming back, Luke Haas and Ty Washington both returning. That's going to be big. I think they can thrive in a Petrino type of offense. You just look at what he did with the tight ends he had, you know, when he was here previously. You look at Chris Gregg, DJ Williams, guys like that. They got fed the ball a lot. So, you know, these two could have, you know, potential breakout seasons next year with under that Petrino offense. And if we can get a kind of, like we said, a good line in there to give the quarterback time to throw the ball, these guys could thrive in that offense. And then when you flip over to the defensive side of the ball, you got defensive tackle Cam Ball announced he is returning. Big time there, as he's going to be a returning starter on that defensive line. And then you got punter Max Fletcher coming back. He's a guy that I honestly wasn't sure. You know, I'm indifferent about him coming back. He had games this year where he looked fantastic, and he had other games where he just did not look fantastic at all, kind of really shanked some punts. So that's interesting there. But besides those four guys, there's no been really big announcements as far as guys coming back. I think the big question mark everybody's wondering is, what is KJ going to do? There were reports that came out late last week that said he's entering the portal, he's gone. And then he posted to his Instagram saying, hey, I haven't made my decision yet. And since then, it's kind of been radio silence on the KJ front. Depending on who you talk to, there's mixed feelings on, do you want him to come back? Do you not? A lot of people kind of think it's ready for a fresh face. I mean, if you checked out our emergency pod last week where we talked to Javante Herndon about the Bobby Petrino hire, you know, he kind of can see it both ways, a guy that could come back and develop more, but also, does he fit the Petrino style offense? And is it kind of time for this program to move forward with somebody fresh under center, new, that can maybe bring some more excitement around the position and the program next season?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it. I love KJ. I've really been a fan of his this whole time, and frankly, I think the fans need to give him maybe just a little bit more respect, just due to what he kind of carried this team through. Brought us out of some dark times, had some really good years under KJ. Obviously, this year was a little bit of a wash. And I think there's some things he really does need to improve on if he wants to have a shot at the NFL. I won't go into details there necessarily, but the flip side of that coin, I think he's earned the right to kind of, if he wants to stick around, I think he has to know that he's going to have to compete for his job still. I don't want it to be some guaranteed you're starting no matter who's here. That's bad. That said, I think it'll be tough for him to maybe unlearn and relearn a whole nother offense after just trying to do that this year with Enos. I think Petrino would do a better job of maybe playing to KJ's strengths. But it's still going to be learning a whole lot of new jargon and unlearning things you already know, trying to break habits you might already have because Petrino wants you to do something maybe just a tick differently or something. So I can really see both sides of the coin on, keeping KJ wouldn't be a bad thing in certain scenarios, especially if things were able to happen to where he could, kind of unlearn and relearn things quickly. I don't know if he's really able to do that or not. I thought that's what needed to happen this year, and we just saw some different things, underneath Enos's scheme, but it just didn't really click. And so it gives me a little bit of caution, if that makes sense, around KJ being able to fit with Petrino's jargon. But the jury's still out kind of on what all is going to happen. I'm sure that there's conversations happening between all the coaches and KJ right now, relaying all that information. There's no telling how many conversations him and Petrino maybe have had at this point. It's all speculation, but there's got to be communication going on. If there wasn't, I think he would already be in the portal, because you look at all the other quarterbacks that are in the portal right now. We talked about it a little bit before the show. There's a ton of them, and quite a few of them from schools where they started and had pretty good years. I think everybody's kind of trying to take advantage of chasing the check situation in the portal right now, where it's been said a good quarterback in the portal can get $1.5 to $2 million just to go play somewhere else for a year. So I think there's a lot of quarterbacks out there, with Ohio State quarterback McCord, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, just some prime examples of guys that had really good years at their current school, but decided to transfer for whatever reason. So I'm a little shocked that if KJ is going to transfer, that he's not in the portal yet. So there's got to be some conversation that's happening behind closed doors. I'm really curious to see what that ends up kind of shaking out as. But all in all, like I said, I can see both sides of it, and I'll be supportive of him no matter what happens. I wish KJ nothing but the best. I've loved rooting for him this whole time.
Yeah, that's a great assessment. And I think one thing that, as a coaching staff, when you think about KJ coming back, and that you're going to have to be okay with, is if he comes back, you've got to figure you're most likely going to lose either Criswell or Singleton to the portal, because they don't want to sit back and wait another year, especially Criswell kind of not being told, but kind of the mentality was, KJ, this was probably going to be his last year if we would have had a better year. But with that being not the case, then you can probably figure, well, I came here to kind of essentially be the starter next season. Now I'm not going to get the opportunity, so do I go somewhere else? Or in the case of Singleton, he's a redshirted freshman, so he's got all of his years of eligibility left, so he could go somewhere. And, I know he was heavily recruited before he signed with Arkansas by Gus Malzahn at UCF, so there's the potential there that he could go back to another school that recruited him. So I think one of those things, if KJ does come back, there's probably a good chance that you lose one of those guys. Don't know which one. I think most likely it would be Singleton, just because he's a younger guy, has more eligibility left, whereas Criswell could come in and, like you said, have some healthy competition. You can't tell KJ, hey, come back, you're the automatic starter. That doesn't do him any good as far as kind of motivating him to keep improving. So I think that's something that you got to consider if he does decide to come back.
No doubt.
And so we'll flip over to some postseason honors for some Razorbacks. So Landon Jackson and Cam Little were both named first team All SEC. Max Fletcher was named second team All SEC. You had Landon Jackson and Josh Braun named AP second team All SEC. And then Dwight McGlothern accepted an East-West Shrine Bowl invite for, all the seniors out there. And I think now this year it's eligible to juniors as well. And so, we've probably seen the last of McGlothern. He's probably going to go pro. He was I believe I saw the third highest rated defensive back in college football this season. And then another guy that we didn't really mention, but has announced he won't be coming back for Arkansas, but he is going pro, is kicker Cam Little. He has announced late last week that he was going to, try his shot at the NFL. And, I think last I saw, he was ranked the number one kicker in the draft board rankings. And that's a fair assessment. We know what he can do. I think teams and the NFL are really taking notice of how accurate he can be from long and even just in your everyday field goal situation. So I think he'll have a shot to get picked up by a squad and, have a long NFL career.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to lose him, man. He was such a fan favorite and just a great class act of a kicker. I mean, there's no other way of really putting it. So I do think he's going to have a great NFL career. He's too hard of a worker and too good of a kicker to not to, honestly, just what it seems like to me. And I don't blame him for entering the draft. Most kickers, if they do enter the draft like that, they have gotten kind of a crystal ball, essentially, that they are going to get drafted in one of the rounds. It might not be, any type of high round pick, but to get drafted as a kicker is an achievement in and of itself, frankly. So that's exciting to see. I'm going to be really curious to kind of see where he does end up landing and in what spot he's taken. I hope he doesn't fall out of the draft. But even if he does, I know he'll get signed by somebody for a somewhat healthy signing bonus and things of that nature. So I'm going to be really excited to watch his career. Kind of see if he can make it in the league a good long time and be one of those kickers that you can get on your fantasy team and really root for. You know what I mean? So definitely exciting to see that for Cam.
Yeah. And then big news that kind of a lot of Arkansas fans were happy to see is offensive line coach Kennedy is out, and he is headed to Mississippi State to join Jeff Lebby over there at Mississippi State. And Arkansas has officially announced his replacement, offensive line coach Eric Matos. He was previously at Baylor. He had several stops before Baylor, but that's his most recent job at Baylor. And from 19 to 21, he was the BYU O-line coach. From 17 to 18, he coached the O-line at Texas State. 2016, he coached the tight ends at LSU. And then previous to that, from 13 to 15, he was an Arkansas grad assistant under Coach Pittman. So some ties there. He's coming in. I've seen a lot of former offensive linemen that kind of played in that Pittman era when he was here before as the O-line coach. Super excited about this hire. I think this is a fantastic hire. And, I mean, you can't ask for more than, like, former players that worked with these guys have high praise for a guy like this, and to have him come in and kind of take over what was really our struggling unit last year and hopefully can bring in some guys and get that turned around for next year.
Yeah, I think just the fresh face there could really help, draw in maybe an extra guy or two in recruiting / the portal, as the year goes on. I really don't know exactly how many offensive linemen they're really going to try to get out of the portal, but it's not going to hurt to have a kind of an up-and-comer, but that's got some tenure already in a sense, though, too. He's had really good lines at BYU and Baylor both that have drawn different awards. So that's a definitely good thing to see, and I think that's going to help maybe provide a little bit more stability at offensive line than we've had. I think Coach Kennedy was a decent coach. I'm not knocking him at all. I just think something kind of slipped through his fingers and got away from him in a hurry, and then it was just time for a change. I was glad to see that Mississippi State kind of, in a sense, plucked him from us, even though there was reports that he was going to get let go if something of that nature didn't happen previous. But it's always nice to, be wanted somewhere else. And I think he, has potential to be a good fit at Mississippi State. I think there's potential that there's a lot of rumors going around that KJ could have transferred to Mississippi State. And I don't know if he wants to follow his O-line coach over there after having the year he just did here at Arkansas. So that might be impacting a little bit of KJ's decisions, but that's neither here nor there. But all in all, I wish nothing but the best, especially Coach Mateos coming in. I've got high hopes, man. I really do. He's got SEC experience, and then he's got experience kind of working around the nation. I think that'll get him some ties to maybe go pluck some guys that he needs, and I think he's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, that I couldn't agree more with that. And other coaching updates. So it came out today, I believe, that Coach Kenny Guyton and Derek Keefe will resume their previous roles as wide receiver and assistant wide receivers coach. So not a ton of shakeup on the offensive staff as far as, Petrino coming in. So I'm sure him and Pittman sat down and kind of was like, hey, these guys, Coach Guyton, stepped up in time of need and really tried to help out this Arkansas offense. And he's going to be back. Got offered, I guess, hey, if you want your previous role back, you can stay here. He likes this wide receiver room. I'm sure he's got connections with these guys. And so to see those guys be back on offense, the only big really shakeup on the offensive coaching staff has been that new O-line coach. You still have our tight ends coach that came in from Stanford last year. You still got your receivers coaches. I'm sure Petrino's going to handle the quarterbacks coaching role. No word on Jimmy Smith as far as running backs coach, but as of right now, you got to kind of figure he'll stay with the guys that are here and the recruits that are coming in. I saw he was on a recruiting visit with them as, they went down and hit Central Arkansas this past weekend, kind of went and talked to Courtney Crutchfield, that is from Pine Bluff, that decommitted a few weeks ago. Trying to get him back on board as he's a top receiver in the state, and cousins with Charleston Collins, a big-time defensive lineman that's committed to Arkansas. And, I believe they stopped in and saw running back Braylon Russell and a few other guys down to Central Arkansas on that visit. And so that's big time for those two guys to be back. And hopefully, we get some of these receivers back for next year. I believe most of the guys have an extra year of eligibility that they can come back. Love to see Andrew Armstrong come back another year and, be able to play with, if we said it all season, if we can fix some of these offensive line issues, I think all these receivers and skill players can have better numbers and better stats, just because if you can have some time, these receivers can run their full routes, these running backs can hit the holes that are being opened up for them and just have overall success. So to see maybe Andrew Armstrong and Isaac Tesla, Satania, guys like those come back and be able to have a successful next year can really show that maybe they are actual really good receivers and not just like people down on them that they're not getting separation or whatnot, because that's not entirely their fault that they're having to try to catch the ball halfway through a route and, whatever it may be. But besides getting off on a tangent, Coach Guyton and Coach Keefe will be back. Great to see those guys. I think Coach Guyton brings some good energy to this team. All the guys seem to really rally around him and his attitude and mentality. So it's good to see those guys back.
Yeah, I was glad they let him kind of keep his position how it was. I thought he's done a bang up job on bringing in guys that fit needs here and there. Hazelwood coming in last year, Armstrong, Tesla, several others coming in this year, as well as keeping a few guys and a couple of freshmen coming in. So I think he's been doing a really, really solid job at that wide receivers position. And I'm glad, and I definitely don't argue the fact of keeping him back on, even though he's a remnant of kind of an old regime. I think he will be able to fit in the new system, no problem at all. And you really want to keep him just for his recruiting abilities. You spoke to a little bit the trip that they've taken to go see Crutchfield. There's been some other coaches from outside the state come in and see him as well. Lane Kiffin's the most recent one, I believe, that made a stop in Pine Bluff. So I know those guys are kind of vying for him hard, and I hope they do everything they can. And I think keeping Kenny will maybe potentially help you keep a guy like Courtney, because he's already got the connection developed with him, things of that nature. So the guys that you've got, potentially lined up to come in or are kind of on the fence, I think keeping Kenny is a crucial part on maybe keeping a couple of those guys in the state. So in my opinion, very, very good job on keeping them and hopefully letting them kind of transition into learning Petrino's offense. Realistically, I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for Kenny to learn that, Petrino's style and lingo and stuff. So he'll have several different offensive coordinators, talents and styles that he can glean from. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two, Kenny's an OC somewhere. I would hate to lose him, but I can see that in the cards coming for him.
Yeah, like you said, can't help but hopefully hope that benefits this Arkansas's chance at getting Crutchfield to recommit. Hopefully adding that splash of high octane Petrino offense in front of him kind of makes him reconsider Arkansas and what he can come in and do as a freshman and with the type of talent he has. And so with that, we'll take a quick ad break here, and we'll be back with Arkansas basketball news, where exciting things are happening for Arkansas basketball.
You know what I like? I like to be comfortable. I also love representing my favorite sports teams. And in the Clutch, I am able to have the best of both worlds. In the Clutch Apparel is your one-stop shop for all things sports. They have officially licensed gear from all your favorite teams and players from the NHL, MLB, NFL, and more. They have sports classic tees from yesteryear and beyond. Check out their full website in the link down below. When you enter the promo code Variety Sports, you get 10% off everything site-wide. Feel comfortable with your sports apparel and go over to their website now at intheclutch.com. And don't forget to use our code Variety Sports to get 10% off.
And we are back. And man, what a big week it was last week for Arkansas basketball as the Duke Blue Devils came to town. We previewed it a little bit last week, but what a game this was. If you missed it, we did a recap on our show where we partnered up with Hoop Southbound, talked to them about a rapid reaction after the game. But we'll break down some stats here. Arkansas wins this game 80-75, a game that kind of the projections went back and forth. After Arkansas's trip to the Bahamas, everybody kind of started favoring back towards Duke, even though it was home for Arkansas. But Bud Walton showed up and showed out and had its highest capacity crowd on record with, I believe it was 20,334. And what a big win this was, because it was also Musselman's 100th win as a Razorback head coach. You couldn't ask for a better, kind of hyped up big win than, a blue chip, blue blood, the Duke Blue Devils. So Arkansas wins this 80-75. Quick thoughts on this game before we dive into stats?
Well, it was hyped up to astronomical levels, and the fans showed up. Camp Bud was out there. All the kids were camped out several days in advance. It was definitely an exciting game. The atmosphere before the game, all the things of that nature were next level, honestly. I mean, just you don't really see that very often. And nobody had anything but good things to say about Bud Walton. I know Jay Billis was talking a lot of high things, even though he's a Duke alumni. He was saying that this is one of the craziest, best atmospheres in college basketball. And if you've never been to the Bud, then you need to put it on your schedule eventually to go out there and watch a game there. Even if you're not a Razorback fan, go see your team play there, because the environment is worth seeing. So that was one of the coolest things I'd heard in a while. And obviously the game itself was just, it was crazy. The entire game, start to finish. It was pretty close in the first half. We got a little bit of a lead in the second half, and then Duke made it a little bit scary there at the end. We've got to work on our full court pressure for sure. We were having a hard time getting the ball up the floor there in the final seconds, and Duke was able to get a couple of turnovers and cut the lead down, and it got a little close. But all in all, this was a great game for the Hogs. Definitely to bounce back from a little bit of a rough trip in the Bahamas. I think they were exhausted. I know they took an extra day of rest in between the Bahamas trip and their first practice when they got back, and I think that did wonders for the team. You could tell they all kind of had fresh legs and a little bit of extra energy and that extra chip on their shoulders. So all in all, one of the best games I've watched in a long, long time.
Yeah, this was, like Seth said, a much-needed win for this team to bounce back after, Bahamas not going the way they, really Musselman envisioned. He said in press conferences before the Duke game that he took those losses in the Bahamas personal. He said that he was not happy with how we performed. And I believe, he came out and said that he watched the most film he had ever had in 24 hours prepping for this Duke game. And it paid off. I mean, you just look at that first half where, we kind of took the same approach as we did against Zach Edey and Purdue, kind of shut down their big man, Filipowski. He had 3 points in that first half. And we got him in foul trouble, which is big, to get him out of the game. And I think that's really what helped Arkansas build up their lead a little bit. And then you look at guys for Arkansas, leading scorers came out. Khalif Battle had a heck of a game, 21 points to lead all scorers. He seems like that's his MO, a walking bucket off the bench that can come out and, put you up 20 points and no big deal off the bench. He was followed up by Trevor Brazil with 19 points. He had a fantastic game. And then Layden Blocker and Ellis, both 9 points each. Layden Blocker is really taking a hold and maximizing his playing time that he's getting and really, taking advantage of that. And then you look over to the rebounding side. Brazil led all rebounders with 11. He got himself a double-double against Duke, which is big. And you had Chandler Lawson come in with 8 and Khalif Battle with 5. So these guys, Chandler Lawson's been a bright spot that Musselman was able to come out and get out of Memphis. A lot of people weren't sure on what his role would be this year or kind of how he would factor in. But he's played a decent amount of minutes this year and has been a key factor, contributor to this team, whether it be nights he has big scoring nights or he helps rebound, or just his athleticism and length affects the game so much. And can't ask for a better game and rebound from what happened in the Bahamas. And then you talk about Arkansas shooting. Terrible shooting in the Bahamas, but they came back and bounced back at home, shooting 49.1% from the field, going 26 of 53, shooting 40.9% from three-point range, going 9 of 22, and 63.3% from the free throw line, shooting 19 out of 30. I'd like to see a little bit higher free throw percentage, but overall, things seem to just all work in Arkansas's favor for this game.
Yeah, it really did, man. We hit a lot of threes that I was surprised they went in on a few of them, and then we had some really good looks too. That Trevor knocked down a couple of threes. He's very dangerous from the corners if he gets an open look, and then Caleb Battle can just hit anything. It's if he gets just a sliver of an open look, he's shooting it, and he's been shooting a great percentage, even with some potentially questionable shots. They're going in. It's wild. He's a really fun player to watch. He's been getting into it the last couple of games, getting the shimmy and everything after a couple of big threes. So there's a lot of offensive firepower on this team, more so than we had last year. I think because it's spread across different players. You get output from multiple different guys. I mean, a couple of guys at work were talking. This is going to be the hardest team for Musselman to coach, just in the fact that he's not going to be able to narrow it down to 7 or 8 guys. I don't see how he can. There's 10 guys right now that I'm seeing get significant minutes game in and game out that are all playing well enough that you can't sit them, at least not for long periods of time. I mean, if somebody's having a bad shooting night, yeah, you might sit them the second half. Devo actually didn't play a whole lot in the second half of this game because Layden Blocker was playing so well. So you're going to have nights like that where, it's kind of plug and play on which matchup fits the best and who's kind of got the hot hand. But there's legitimately 10, 11 players on this team that are all vying for significant minutes and are impacting the game when they're on the court, and they're forcing Musselman's hand to play them, which is awesome to see. And it's not something that Arkansas has really had the last few years. So I think it's going to benefit us more so than maybe some people think. And this Duke game's a prime example where you had a couple of guys maybe earn a few extra minutes here over a couple of others that had been playing more just due to they had the hot hand that night. And Musselman's able to do that now. And that's cool to see.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's one thing that's a good point. This team is so deep. I think we've seen Musselman have larger rotations than we have any other year he's been here, just because, to like Seth's point, you can't afford to sit these guys because they're just so talented and they all can kind of come out and contribute. Guy that we haven't highlighted a lot, but if you just look at his, game, like how he affected the game, Mekhi Mitchell was plus 16 as far as when you look at analytics on how much he was able to affect the game in a positive way for Arkansas. He had several good blocks in there. He put up some points, some key rebounds, but he came in and played his role. And, he'll have a night like a few games ago against the beginning of the season where he has a night that he breaks out, has a double-double. But other nights when he can just come in, play his part, and, help get this team a win. So that was a big win for this Arkansas team to get the momentum back in their favor as we go into our last little stretch of non-conference games before conference play gets kicked off in January. And, the men's team isn't the only team making noise here. Arkansas women's basketball came out on the road in the ACC SEC Challenge for Women's and knocked off number 15 Florida State in their own house on November 30th. So they came out, won 71-58. who else is going to lead this team in scoring? And then other than Talia Scott, 24 points, followed by Samara Spencer with 15, Sailor Poffenbarger with 13. And then you flip over to rebounding, Sailor Poffenbarger, 23 rebounds. It's not a typo. She was pulling down everything in this game that came off the rim, the backboard, whatever. She was going after it. Michaela Daniels, Miriam Dowda followed that up with 6 rebounds each, and then Talia Scott added 4 of her own. Arkansas shot really well in this game, where they shot 31.6% from the field, going 25 of 79, 31.7% from three-point range, going 13 of 41, and then 72.7% from the free throw line, only shooting 11, but made 8 of those. So this was a big win for this women's team, as they were able to knock off a top, 15 team. And I think they're starting to really find their rhythm this season so far, into this young season.
They've got some ballers, man. They shoot a lot of threes. Some nights more than others. They shot quite a few. 41 3-point attempts is a lot, but they made 13 of those for that 31, almost 32% clip, which is pretty solid. Realistically, making that many threes, you're going to score a lot of score a lot of points. So I think that attributed a lot, but you can't discredit the defense that they've been able to play. I think that's one aspect of their game that's improved as the season has gone on. It didn't shine through in the game they played after this one against UCLA quite as much, but this is an area that they have improved on, in my opinion, since the beginning of the season, and then also in comparison to last season. So they're playing a little bit better defense. They're a little bit more balanced. They still shoot a lot of threes, but they're a lot more balanced on the rebounding side of things, where they're not letting a lot of those get away from them. So all in all, this is a huge win. I mean, to be able to go on the road and beat a number 15 team handily the way they did, I mean, that was an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, and they followed it up with a ranked matchup at home versus number 2 UCLA. Unfortunately, they fell in this one 81-66, but not an entirely blowout game. They kind of held their own. It is a 15-point loss, but I mean, for going up against the number 2 team in the country, I think it's big to keep it within 15. You see teams like usually the number 2 teams will blow out other teams, by 20, 25 points. So for Arkansas to keep that around a decent margin, I think it shows growth for this team. In this game, Talia Scott led the team in scoring again with 23 points, followed by Miriam Dowda with 14 and Sailor Poffenbarger with 12. Leading rebounders, Sailor Poffenbarger with 7, Michaela Daniels with 3, and Talia Scott and Samara Spencer and Miriam Dowda all had 2. In this game, it's still pretty decent shooting. Just the other team got a lot more shots in and a lot more shots up than Arkansas did. It seemed like, everything that they would, throw up went in no matter what it was. Arkansas shot the ball. They shot 32.8% from the field, going 21 of 64. 37.5% from the three-point line, going 9 of 24, and 78.9% from the free throw line, going 15 out of 19. So fantastic on free throws there. But, hate to see this loss, but it's not the worst in the world, and that doesn't worry me. If we can kind of bounce back from this and play like we have been all season, I think you could see a surprising Arkansas team in the SEC this year.
I agree with that 100%. They didn't get as many possessions in this game. We didn't get as many rebounds, but part of that was because UCLA made all of their shots. They're the number 2 team for a reason. They are very, very good. You remember back to last year when we played, I can't remember if it was South Carolina and got like 40-pieced or something. So there's some improvement being made, against these top level teams like this, that we're able to compete at a little bit better clip than we used to. I've been excited with everything I've seen from this team, the growth that they've had, because at the beginning of the year, they had some very close, almost lost, style wins against some unranked, non-conference opponents that should have been blowouts, and they've made a ton of improvements since then. That's just all there is to it. So that's been a fun thing to watch, and they're extremely competitive. They are starting to gel as a team. You're starting to kind of see people's roles, that they're fitting together well. And realistically, kind of to your point, they lost this game, but it didn't feel like a bad loss. You know what I mean? So all in all, a lot of things that they've improved on. I think they've got to do a little bit better job just shooting the ball from the floor and not just relying on threes entirely. Their shooting percentage just outside of the 3-point percentage isn't the best. Could be some improvement there. And then they could get a few more shots up here and there if they could steal some possessions. But outside of that, I've been extremely pleased with the women's basketball team. I don't see how you couldn't be happy with them at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true. And you know, you gotta love what you see from your rising star in Talia Scott. You know, she's just a freshman and she is right now averaging 23.2 points a game, playing 35 minutes a game. That's big for a freshman to come in and do that. And, you know, we were saying that was big against, you know, some of the smaller teams we were playing, but to come out and put up 24 against the number 15 team and 23 against the number 2 team, you know, that shows you some real talent there. And, you know, she was awarded for that performance. You know, she was named SEC Freshman of the Week for the third consecutive week. So that's big time, you know, and I think that she's just going to continue to get better as she slowly adjusts to the college game and continues to essentially get her feet wet, if you will. And I think we'll see, you know, just more fantastic performances from her.
Yeah, she's been great, dude. I think the hardest thing that's going to be coming for coaching staff after this season is keeping her. Honestly, I mean, there'll be a lot of potential for her to, you know, be poached from the Hogs and go play for, you know, an LSU, a South Carolina, somebody like that. But if they're able to keep her for a few years, that is somebody that you can really build around. They already are. This team kind of flows through her in a sense already. And so that's been cool to see, no doubt. And I think she's been a key piece as to why we've seen such incremental improvement week in and week out, is that she's starting to see things better. The rest of the team is able to play better around her. Everybody else gets more open looks because of her. I mean, it's just everything kind of falls into place when she's playing well. So that's been fun to watch. And I'm telling you, you keep keeping her around for the next couple of years, this team's going to be scary if you're able to kind of add even more pieces throughout the next couple of years.
Yeah, so true. And so as we jump back over to Arkansas men's basketball, they rebounded, or not rebounded, but continued that momentum they found against Duke and took on Furman, the Paladins. You know, they a team that was a tournament team last year, a team that's expected to do well in their conference this year. Arkansas got the win 97-83, so a high scoring affair here. And, you know, leading scorer for Arkansas, Khalif Battle once again came off the bench, put up 25 points in this one, followed by Chandler Lawson with 19 points and Trevor Brazil with 13. You had leading rebounders Devo Davis with 10, followed by Layden Blocker with 5, and Trevor Brazil with 4. In this game, Arkansas shot incredibly well. I think our highest percentages all season. You talk about 60.7% from the field, 37 of 61, 42% from the three-point line, 8 of 19, and 71.4% from the free throw line, going 15 of 21. That's hard to believe that those numbers are not like typos, but it seems
It's
like
video game numbers, man.
Yeah, everything we were hitting was going in, but on the flip side of that, Furman shot really well. You know, they hit 12 threes in this game compared to Arkansas's 8. So that's they were able to stay in the game. They hit a bunch of those threes early, but Arkansas was able to come out and make adjustments. You know, Muss is known for making those halftime adjustments, but this was a good win to see that they could continue that momentum from the Duke game over into this game and hopefully into a big matchup with Oklahoma on Saturday. But one thing you got to note is in this game late in the second half, unfortunately, Trevor Brazil had to leave the game with an injury. He on a shot, a tip in, or was it a rebound? One of the two. He came down on his ankle wrong. Coach Muss said after the game that they'll have to see what the next 24 hours holds. They said it's a pretty high ankle sprain with that it was already swollen up a little bit. So, you know, you can probably mark him out for Saturday, but you hate to see that with a guy that just came back from an injury last season to early into this season, especially off of a big win against Duke, having a great game this game, get himself injured and have to miss some time.
Yeah, I hate it for him. The good thing is that you got Tremont Mark back because he sat out in that Duke game and we played very well even without, you know, one of our leading scorers. He played in this Furman game, got a little bit limited minutes, but played pretty well. Golly, man, you look at our shooting percentage, everybody played well. If you look at it just from an offensive side of things, defensively, I thought we played well. Again, it seemed we talk about it every time somebody comes into Bud Walton. It seems like we get their best game and they shoot the lights out, even though we're defending well. Most of the threes they made were heavily contested. There was only 3 or 4 that were open looks, and they still hit 12 of them. It just seems like everything they were throwing up, it was falling in, especially in the first half. It just seems like every time we play, kind of one of these teams we ought to, I don't want to say dominate, because Furman is legit. They're a way better team than a lot of people realize, and there's a reason why very few Power 5 teams schedule Furman in their non-conference slots, because Furman is a upset waiting to happen like year in and year out. You see it very often with them. So anyways, that being said, we get everybody's best game, and I was glad to see, even at halftime, after them kind of scoring in flurries on us, we had a 5-point lead. And we quietly played very, very well. Some of our points maybe not have been as flashy as theirs with all the threes that they rained in, but we quietly held the lead at halftime. And I think a lot of that was a testament to some of our defensive possessions, forcing a few turnovers, and then just capitalizing on good shots on our end as well. So overall, great game here. I'm excited to see, how we match up against Oklahoma. It's going to hurt not having Brazil in there. I think he spaces the floor out for us better than anybody else on our team can. So there's going to have to be some adjustments made. But we're, like we said earlier, this is the deepest team that Musselman's had by far as guys that can come in and get you 15, 20 points off the bench any given night. It can come from anybody. Davenport's been known to hit some threes here and there. Obviously, Debo Davis can take over a game. Chandler Lawson had a huge game against Furman and really showed some of his offensive presence, more so than we've seen all year long. He's been a phenomenal player on defense and rebounding, things of that nature. And he'll get his 6 or 8 points here or there, but this was a breakout game for him with 19. Tremont Mark's not even on the list as far as leading scorers, and you know what he can do. He scored 34 points back in the Bahamas. So there's not going to be a lack of offensive firepower with Trevor Brazile being out. I'm just curious to see how we match up. And it'll be a little bit different. The rotations will have to be different. I think you'll see guys like Makai Mitchell and Jalen Graham get significantly more minutes. And they'll maybe run a lot more post looks than normal, and a lot of pick and roll with Mitchell. He's one of the best pick and roll players that we've had since probably Daniel Gafford. Super fun to watch when he's out there getting his few pick and roll minutes here and there. But overall, I've been so happy with this team this year, even though there's been some losses early and stuff that a lot of people have been frustrated about. If you look big picture, the potential this team has, to me, just seems like it's higher, and you have more players that are able to weather the storm if somebody has a bad night. And I just think all of that bodes well for late in the season and conference play, and when tournament time rolls around. I've got a good feeling that's when we're probably going to be playing our best ball, or at least close. And I've got high expectations after, kind of being at this point in the season, seeing what we've done so far.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, as far as matchups go for this week, how Muscle attacks, potentially missing Brazil. I think you maybe see a lot more Chandler Lawson, like you said, and, with the addition of Makai Mitchell, Jalen Graham, those guys, they're going to have to step up. And it's going to be a testament to what type of, the depth that's on this team. And I think it'd be interesting to see how we approach that. Oklahoma is undefeated. They have a couple big wins under the belt. They beat USC on the road, big win there. But this has been a pretty good game the last few years that Arkansas has played this Oklahoma-Arkansas game in Tulsa at the BOK Center. So I expect Arkansas to come out and try to get it. This would be a good big resume win for this team, especially if Oklahoma keeps up the way they are playing throughout the rest of the season, and maybe contends for the Big 12 championship and whatever it may be. So we'll hopefully the Muss has got a good game plan in hand for that game. And a few other awards. Trevor Brazile, after that big Duke game that he had with a double-double, was named SEC Player of the Week. And the Cleef battle the other night surpassed 1,000 career points, so congratulations to him. That's big for him. Any player to score 1,000 career points, that's big. And so, we hope these guys just continue to thrive in this Musselman offense and keep, getting those victories for Arkansas.
No doubt about it, man. Battle is a walking bucket. We haven't had anybody that's shot this high of a 3 percentage with some of the shots that he's taken in a long time. Maybe more of a bucket than even JD Notae, for example. Somebody just kind of recent times, but he's fun to watch. Definitely a little bit streaky, but man, it seems like he's on more than he's off, if that makes sense. So he's been a ton of fun. I'm glad to have him on the team, and I think he's really taken advantage of his time to shine on the national stage and improve his draft stock and his NBA, potential. He could be a very good role player for an NBA roster eventually if he keeps developing. So he's been fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. And so that wraps up our Arkansas basketball for this week. And we actually, unfortunately, have some not great breaking news where I just informed Arkansas running back Rocket Sanders has decided to enter the transfer portal and move on from the Arkansas Razorbacks. There was kind of figuring rumblings that this might happen after this season, just the way the seasons happen. We saw AJ Green leave already. This was a guy that I was hoping we wouldn't lose. Just seeing him in that number 5 brings back memories, but also he's been a fantastic player for Arkansas. Had a great year last year. This year didn't go how he wanted to. And, with the injuries, with his knee in the first opening game of the season, kind of hampered him all season long. And then, that FIU game, tearing his labrum late in the season, you hate to see that, but we wish Rocket the best of luck. He is another guy like Seth would mention, love watching KJ play, love watching Rocket play and what he could do for Arkansas. But, that one hurts, and we wish him the best of luck, though.
Yeah, no kidding. That does sting. I hadn't even seen that yet. I had to come through my phone, but oh, man, yeah, that sucks.
So
I'm not surprised, but yeah, it was a rough year, and I don't blame him for wanting to go somewhere that maybe has a little bit more of an established offensive line from the get-go and a little bit more of a guarantee of, hey, I'm going to actually have some better reps when I do get the ball. Because I think he's going to be fighting to bring his draft stock back up. It was pretty dang high after last year, and I think he was wanting to build on that this year, and it just didn't happen. So wish him the best of luck wherever he ends up.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, that they're thinking that he might be the only running back we lose, and hopefully that's other than AJ Green. That kind of opens up the spots for maybe a transfer running back wants to come in. Who knows? We've got some talent in that room though, and I think we'll be okay. It's just I know he is a big fan favorite player, so wish him the best of luck wherever he goes, and we'll have to maybe keep tabs on him as next season goes. Hopefully he doesn't go to any rival teams, but we'll see what happens. I think I saw something about him potentially wanting to go closer to home. He is a Florida native, so maybe some Florida school he'll get there, but we'll see on that. So now we'll jump over to Arkansas volleyball, as Arkansas volleyball is in the NCAA tournament, and they are rolling right along as they hosted the first 2 rounds here in Fayetteville down in Barnhill over this past weekend, and they had some major turnouts between their two matchups. They had over 5,000 people in attendance average for those games, which is big. Arkansas got the victory in their first match versus Stephen F. Austin, where they won 3-0 in the first round. And they moved on to take on TCU in round 2, where they won 3-1 in matches to advance to the Sweet 16, where they'll take on a team that they played twice this season and hadn't been able to take down yet, the Kentucky Wildcats. They'll be on December 7th in Lincoln, Nebraska. So hopefully they can come out and, maybe third time's the charm and come out and get a win here and move on to the Elite 8 for the women's volleyball NCAA tournament.
Man, we had a saying back when I was playing ball in high school and stuff where if you had a couple of losses against somebody, you're due for a win. And if you had won a couple of games against somebody, they were due for a win against you. And we always hated playing those teams, late in the year if you'd already beaten them a few times. They've got a lot of tape on you kind of thing. So we're due for a win against Kentucky, frankly. And it would be really, really cool to see them get that sweet revenge when the time counts the most in the Sweet 16 and move on. So going to be exciting to watch that one and wish them nothing but the best there.
Yeah. And, just kind of to show how well this volleyball team has done this season and has been coached, Jason Watson got himself another award as he was named South Region Coach of the Year. So another big award coming after that SEC Coach of the Week or the year last week that we announced. And so that's big. He's got a program built here at Arkansas, and, they're, I believe, exceeding expectations than what kind of was predicted to come in. We knew this team had this potential all year long, especially how close they had a matchup against number 1 Wisconsin early into the year. So glad to see these guys, this coach and, this team getting the recognition they deserve. And hopefully, like Seth said, we lost to them twice, so maybe it's our turn to get that victory against Kentucky. And so as we get ready to wrap up here, Arkansas's upcoming events over the next week and weekend is Arkansas women's basketball will take on Louisiana Tech on December the 7th. Arkansas volleyball has that matchup versus Kentucky in the Sweet 16 on the December 7th. That'll be taking place in Lincoln, Nebraska. Then you have Arkansas men's basketball going to Tulsa to the BOK Center to play Oklahoma. And this will be the last time we're playing them in a non-conference matchup since they will be moving over to the SEC next season. And then Arkansas women's basketball will be taking on UAPB on December the 10th. And, a lot of great things. Basketball season's in full swing. Get out there, get to the bud, watch these women, these men, fantastic teams this year. They're doing really great things. I think both these teams are going to continue to improve as the season progresses. And, you're going to get to watch some fantastic basketball if you get out there. And before you know it, we'll have gymnastics starting up soon. A lot of other things getting kicked off. Spring's just right around the corner when baseball season and softball season will be here. Softball season and baseball, both their schedules have been announced. Both those programs are expected to have more good years. We know we can expect that out of baseball, but now with what Courtney Deifel's built here, you can almost expect that there's going to be an exciting year there as well. With the talent that we've talked about in episodes past, the transfer talent they brought in, the freshman talent they brought in, both these teams are going to be exciting to watch this year. So as we wrap up,
I can't wait. Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's one of my favorite times of the year. That was definitely my favorite sport growing up, playing it and stuff, playing baseball. And I play a lot of like rec league softball, so there's a little spot in that for that near and dear to my heart too. So I love going to the Diamond, watching games. It's such a fun environment, and the Razorbacks really do it right. So if you can get a chance to maybe get some season tickets or just get some of these multi-pack tickets, they sell a couple of different game packages and things of that nature. They're worth watching, whether it's the softball or the baseball team. It's a very fun time. So get those tickets while you can. They don't last long.
Not at all. And so don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you to all the subscribers that came out after, we post our, emergency pod talking about Bob Petrino, all you guys that subscribe, keep telling your friends, we're putting out this great content. Let us know, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it may be in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear, what you think you want us to do better, what you want to hear more of. We do this for you guys, so we'll talk Arkansas sports all you want, and just let us know. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Woo Pig Weekly, and we'll be right back here next week.